yesterday.
I did see in the minutes, I need to change NS to CNS because every place I wrote and I saw.
So Michael sell it or is he leasing it?
We're,
Your
Stiver still has, I think it has a T in it too.
Oh, it's
I
I imagine.
SIVERS.
That's, those,
You didn't see the
And
money.
CNS. All right, got it.
those are the only typos.
All right.
You know that, you know.
What's your legacy, Dad? Like this.
I don't even know if those typos. It's
No,
not good.
so.
I hope he finished all the work. at it. You know that it used to be connected. Yeah, because I was in the Smith, it used to be the HW, whatever, Smith building, now John's own. I was on the second floor of that and it used to be an L connecting.
So when Mark was a kid, he has memories of like, running through all the, abandoned.
Oh, I didn't know he grew up here.
With the mine.
Oh.
My wife just had some.
Oh, really?
Probably his last
Yeah.
customer.
Well, she just had it done. just
He won't
like
stop.
A week
He keeps
ago.
keeps telling everybody he's fully retired, but he's like this one, he'll never stop, Or this one, right? Or this one, like all you guys, you just don't stop.
There we go. Where'd that come from?
Morning.
Morning.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Chris. Let me see. I have an echo. Maybe I closed YouTube. You guys could help me if I don't see Miles and our attorney getting on. Just let me know. Let them in the room.
I'm glad to hear it.
He's 43.
It's trying to get to
Cirrhosis.
Oh, I started running marathons at 41, so I'm not.
Good morning.
That part doesn't impress me, but what he does. Yeah, I just see his little against panniers. That's a lot to carry. Jeez.
Oh, in person today. He's not on there. He's here.
Uh-oh.
Excellent. So that's.
He jumped off the screen.
Yeah. Oh, you popped up.
How did he get on here?
Good morning, Steve. Hey. You good? Recording?
I am recording. Kind of our mission, but if you want to start on with it.
Like to open the meeting, the October 4th, 2024, City of Geneva IDA meeting. Call the meeting to order. Mission statement. David, do you want to just?
I will. The Geneva IDA was created to promote, develop, encourage, and assist in acquiring, constructing, maintaining, equipping, and furnishing certain types of projects and facilities to advance job opportunities, health, general prosperity, economic welfare, and recreation opportunities of the citizens of Geneva. So again, we're going over that at the beginning of every meeting as a reminder to ourselves of why we're here and what we're doing.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, the agendas before, is there any addition or deletions from the agenda? I think you wanted to add something about the annual meeting. Is that correct?
Do we need to add an agenda item or a
The schedule.
discussion item, the schedule?
schedule.
Sure. So,
Okay, so we'll add that.
I would like to add something about having the students do the wayfinding at the GEDC.
Okay, so we'll add those to the agenda under new items.
Can we add recreation activity? That was, he mentioned recreation activities. I have one that we can talk about.
All right, we'll have Lowell's report. We'll add Lowell's report to the agenda. All right, September minutes that we received, is a motion to approve those. I'm sorry, motion to approve the agenda. Thank you, Jan.
I'll second it.
Catherine. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, September minutes. I need a motion to approve the September minutes, Catherine. And Irene, any discussion? There's a few corrections that Paul's taken care of already. Just a few minor typos essentially. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Financial report. Is Adam going to be here today or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So I'll be happy to take any questions you have to him.
Okay, like a motion to approve the financial minutes that were also included in our packet. Any questions or things that seem? Okay, so a motion,
So it's Adam's first, he's the one that prepared these.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's his first time doing them being back with us, and I don't think it's a complete set of financials. The dates are a little off. It's not the full year. It's at the end of our fiscal year. So just a note that, it's a snapshot for now.
okay, and we're
Do we
still,
want to ask him to provide something different when we get to scheduling our annual meeting later this month?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we can put together some of what we want specifically about that.
sure. And we're still missing the L&D mortgage.
It's, well, so this is something, she's not here anymore, so now I'm already forgetting. We were talking about combining the GDC financials into the IDA financials because it is technically part of us, but we haven't quite gotten there, so,
Correct, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so.
So there's some more work to come. So, why don't we, not motion to approve the minutes
I
at this
will
point?
move that.
Okay,
yes.
we'll just skip that until they're completed and we see something for the next meeting. I don't think it'll be impact anything at this point.
No.
I do not see that Miles is on the
Miles is
call.
here.
Is he? Oh, there he is. Sorry.
Miles, hello.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you,
Okay,
Mike.
good. You're welcome.
All right. Your time, you're ready to hear your report. How are things at the GEDC this month or last month?
Yeah, we started off well. We moved in a new tenant that is a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so he has his studio in there. Element Winery is cranking away. They've almost completed all of their build out that they did, and they're actively starting their journey there at the GDC and actually looking potentially for some more space as they expand. So there's some good things popping.
Did they sign the lease?
Yeah, both of those are signed leases.
Okay, good.
And what are the lengths of those, Miles?
The Element one, I believe, is a multi-year lease. The other one is definitely a year lease. We graduated both of them because of just at their expense. There's some major build outs and just rectifying some of those spaces that need work.
Great.
And Miles, can you say a little bit about the kind of growing pains we've had with Element, just so that board members know what's going on and are informed as we move forward with that?
Sure. Yeah. And every step of the way, they've been meeting with code enforcement, the water authority. So that seems to be going well. I was down there a couple days ago with all those parties as they were walking through some scenarios. There's ongoing, testing going on, things that the water authority is requesting of them. And Yeah, there was one minor little mishap, I think that was, after I saw it, it wasn't, it kind of flew around a little bit that one thing was happening, which was not the case. It was something else. I think they were washing out some buckets and there was some, little vines and some grapes that had wound up in a spot that was, not normal for it to be, but we figured all that out. But otherwise, they're keeping the space clean. They're getting ready to move all their equipment and production stuff over there, and they have some interesting plans for the future, which we're going to start to discuss and see where we can help with that as well.
Okay, good.
So what is, I guess, maybe I missed it. What is the catalyst for this? What is this all like? What's the problem?
Yeah,
So we have some concern, the city has some concerns with just protecting the water treatment plant from effluent from winemaking
Okay.
process. So they have a system set up that before anything goes down the drain, it goes into storage tanks. So we're testing. There was a little issue with some staff who wasn't following the right process and threw some grapes out the door. The compost basically, and the management has been on top of that and has checked in with them, but it's something that we're having to kind of watch and make sure we're staying on top of, and that they're staying on top of, it's their responsibility.
Sure.
To not be putting anything in other drains in the building. The city is gonna be doing some testing to make sure that nothing is going into the sewer that we don't want in the sewer, because it is, an industrial process. Even though it's all, organic stuff, there's only so much that the processes that the water treatment plant can take. So making sure that they're following all the rules. I think that's, they're learning, they just got set up, making sure that staff is understanding the right processes. They have been working closely with DPW on setting up that system the way it's supposed to work. And there's just some ongoing management that has to happen with this kind of tenant.
Do they have any special air conditioning or refrigeration needs or special power needs? And did we do anything for that, or did they do the improvement?
They did the improvements. Miles, you can chime in if there's anything that you paid for. But my understanding is that they paid for everything. They currently didn't put in any special air handling. But my understanding from code is that they may be asking them to put in some ventilation in the space, which I have asked code, please put that in the wall and our one non-leaking roof. Would be ideal. But they are also immediately looking at significant expansion in the space, and would like more. Our code office wants to make sure that all of that is proceeding with permits correctly, and that there are probably some upgrades to the space that need to be made, like if they take the other, like the back half of that area, windows would need to be fixed up that are broken, and just making sure that it's all done to code and correctly. So that is something actually process-wise, code would really like us to be the ones signing permit applications, which hasn't always been the way it happened in the past, but we are the owners. So it will be a kind of three-step chain of, obviously, we're expecting the tenant to do the design. They would pass it on to Webster, who would bring the actual applications to you to sign, basically, as the applicant and building owner.
How many employees do they have?
I don't know. I don't know if you know, Miles, how many employees are using the space. When I was there last, it is great to see it up and functioning. It's a largely equipment-based. So I think there was maybe 4 people there when I was there.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So it's a lot of very expensive equipment and some cool, innovative stuff that isn't common in the area that they're investing in. These large cement.
Thanks.
Yeah. cement eggs.
Yeah, so they're shaped like an egg so that during the fermentation process, you don't need to rack or I'm sorry, you don't need to mix in the lees. And the shape of the cement automatically causes rotation of maceration process.
I forgot we had a wine expert.
And it's made out of cement?
Yes, which is very temperature regulating. I'm sure the guys are aware of that.
I would say concrete.
Concrete, yeah.
Cement is just a.
Forgot we had an engineer.
Yeah, got it.
Right, yeah, yeah. Make sure that.
And how many square feet do they have? And what are they like?
Thousand, is that what it
Now,
was?
what are they looking to go to?
Yeah, Miles, can you say how many square feet is currently leased to them and an idea of what they're hoping to take on?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I don't have my numbers in front of me, but it's probably a couple thousand square foot range, something like that. Probably a little bit more. And then they're looking at a significant jump, which would be part of it would be the old food justice space. And then potentially more. I mean, they have some really cool ideas, and I think, Geneva is at the epicenter of, in my estimation, with some really cool wineries, food things going on, that they have ideas to tie into that. They supposedly have some other wineries that are interested in following with them and maybe having some synergies there. So yeah, it would be a significant amount of space to keep expanding into there.
But during that type of renovation, we'd still have to keep the lane open from Banner Door, correct?
Oh yeah, no, that's a main thoroughfare to the loading dock. So yeah, that's a given. And they obviously at their own expense built out their infrastructure in that space, which ties right off the kitchen, which they already control,
Sure.
right off that door. And they've made some infrastructure upgrades. We've come alongside them on a couple of things when it kind of tied into electrical upgrades, lighting upgrades, things that the building's going to benefit from, obviously become a part of the building when they're done. And then the rest of it, there is, as David was alluding to, there are ventilation ports already there from old equipment that's there. So just clearing that out, tying into that would be an easier task than making, different openings in the roof and things like that. They're already there. So that's a good thing. We won't have to get into too much monkeying around with that.
Okay. Any more questions?
Miles, the tumbling gym is still there, right?
Yes.
How are they doing? Are they happy in the space? I've been meaning to check in with them and.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're doing great. They're happy. We had, a couple issues with that 100-year rain we had one time, but we stepped up real quick and took care of it. So there was really no interruption for them,
Okay.
long term, but it was initially there was some major, issues within the building. It just couldn't hold that. I mean, the city sewers were back. It was a lot of issues there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, otherwise she's got a growing business. She's got a great, business model. There's a lot of youth that are coming through there. They have an exterior, entrance to their space, so the parents can just like park and drop them off, and they don't have to, wander through the building and figure out where they're going. So it works out well for them. And she's got her direction pointed in the right way, and they're handling it well. I'm pretty pleased with them.
Thank you.
Miles, I'll say I'm happy to see a positive net income for the month.
Yeah, amen to that.
That's good. Okay, well, thank you for the report. Any other questions? Everyone good? All right, thanks, Miles. We appreciate you getting on the call.
You bet. Appreciate everyone there. Thanks.
Okay, Kristen, we see you're on the phone still. Yeah, oh, you're here?
Yes.
We do have a draft report, which partial report was sent last night, I guess, or whatever, day before, whatever.
Yes, I actually got an update from Kristen at the end of the day yesterday that I did not send out.
Okay.
It's newer than that, but.
Okay,
So Kristen, they haven't seen what you just sent me, but what you sent on, what was it, Thursday?
yeah,
Yes.
whatever. Okay, turn over to you, Kristen. Do you want to? How do you want to? You just want to get through what you've got?
Yeah, there's a couple ways I can do this. Would it be beneficial for me to share my screen so that I could give you a visual as I'm talking through it?
That would be great.
I'm gonna give you permission now, so you should have access.
Okay, let me see. Let me know when you are.
Yeah, you see it?
Okay, so the way that this is set up, we have each of the areas of the building and each of the areas that our different trade engineers was covering is set up in their own section, and that's what the table of contents will cover. And when you have this in the digital version, you'll be able to use these as targets to select, and it'll take you right to the section that you want to look at. So the table of contents functions in that way. We're using this kind of key plan to section the building off into areas that you'll be able to tie some of the descriptions to when you're reading through it, so that you'll know what areas that we're referencing. And I think probably the easiest way for me to give you sort of a summary is to hit on some of the, there's really a list of about 4 major items that we identified as things that are really major concerns for the building, that are much larger projects that are going to require maybe phasing or long-term planning. And then there's a list of about 4 smaller projects that should be done right away, that are things that might be a little more, that could be achieved pretty quickly. So that's sort of what these first few things are that are in the first couple pages here. So the very first thing that I'm going to recommend is for a full facility hazardous material survey to be done. And one of the reasons for that is that one of the goals for us as we're doing this report is to have our grants team be able to identify what funding sources are out there that would tie really nicely with some of these scope items that we've identified, so that they align well with the projects. But knowing that any of those funding sources are going to require this as a prerequisite for that money to be used, it'll just be really good information for you to have. It will help whatever design team is doing the planning for the work be better prepared, because a lot of the initial demolition would be different based on whether or not the material was hazardous. So that would be a really first step for any kind of project that happened in the building. Yes.
Is that something that funding through the BOA program would pay for?
There are definitely a bunch of different funding sources that could fall into. Yes.
Kristen, can you please zoom in a little bit? I don't know if I'm just going.
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm getting.
I'm sorry.
Cool. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No reason not to zoom in. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of funding sources that would be able to cover something like that. So, and that's also another reason why breaking these out into very distinct line items rather than grouping them all together into one big project is beneficial, because I think it's usually easier to find very specific grants to tie to very specific things than it is to find one that kind of covers the whole gamut of stuff. So breaking them out into individual pieces, I think, will help us. The next big thing is to demolish the historic masonry building that's there. It's really a rotten tooth in the middle of the rest of the building, and it's really causing a lot of damage. There isn't a scenario where this can stay in place and it would cost multiple times more to fix it and make it okay to the point where it's not hurting the rest of the building than it would to remove it. There is the potential that the walls that are engaged with building B and with part of building A, the walls that are abutting it may be interconnected to the point where we could remove the upper portion of the masonry wall that's above the building and keep what's below that's actually engaged with the building that's staying, and encapsulate that so that it's not letting in any more water. Or if they're not engaged, we could completely remove it. So there's a couple different ways that it could be removed, but we are recommending very strongly that it be removed. I'm gonna skip over this one right now just because it falls into more of the simpler, you can do right now kind of thing. I do want to just touch on, I want to hit all the big kind of larger project pieces first. Because the two other big ones are the sawtooth roof and the mechanical systems. So maybe I did these a little out of order. Apologize. I have two different lists in front of me. All right. Scratch that. I'll just go with the way they're listed in the report. So number 3 here says install missing flashing. And David, I think I pointed this out to you the day that we were on site.
Yes.
And this picture down here shows it. So at the front of the building, this whole edge right here is actually exposed structure. And the more we looked at this, what appears to have happened is that when that upper roof on building A on the 2nd floor, that upper roof was replaced in 2015. And it appears that flashing was removed and just was, oh wait. Hold on. It appears that flashing, I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
My little speaker is flashing different colors. It appears that they removed flashing as part of that roof replacement and did not put it back. So they put back just enough drip edge to finish the EPDM installation, but did not put back any flashing to protect that piece of structure that's there. So you have a major section of this wall that is letting water infiltrate into the entire wall system. So a very doable and quick project is going to be to have somebody come in and install the flashing that goes along this, and then you're going to be able to really stop a whole lot of water from coming into this wall system. So that's one of the things that's at the top of the list, and it's relatively inexpensive to do, but I think you will get a huge benefit from it. In this same area, the roof that is up here, again, the installation in this 2015 roof replacement wasn't the best quality, and there's a lot of ponding on top of this roof. So it shows that the insulation that's up there wasn't sloped correctly. And there's also no roof drains up there. So even though it's not the exactly correct way for it to be done, it will solve the problem in the interim, is to install some roof drains where the ponding is the worst right now, because you do still have at least another 10 years of life on that roof. And there's no reason to replace that EPDM right now. We can install some roof drains, extend the life of it, because there's other issues in the building that should be addressed first. So flashing around this and some roof drains, and then this part of the roof, this part of the building is actually in pretty good shape. And I think you'll get a lot more use out of this area. Now here, as you can see where the ponding is, this is that roof right here. And they can also just remove all of these concrete pads up here. They don't have any purpose. So number 5 talks about the plumbing service, the water service to the building. And part of the reason that some tenants have water service and they have no issue, and some tenants have complaints about the water service or don't want to use certain parts of the building because of the water, is because of the galvanized pipes in the building. And this is very common with buildings of this era. And the recommendation is definitely to replace any of those galvanized pipes. But the way that we would have to go about this, and the next step for this process, would be to do an investigation where we would put a camera through the pipes so that we could determine where the issues are, where the galvanized pipes are, and come up with a plan to identify the paths that need to be replaced. So it's not a full system overhaul, but it would be a significant trenching and replacement of certain supply lines within the building and the water service to the building. You can see that the water heaters are beyond their lifespan, and those should be planned to be replaced. Again, functioning right now, so I would, because of the other serious issues, I would kind of put those a little further down the list, but still need to keep those very high in the planning process. Exhaust in the DPW area, there wasn't any that we could identify, so that's just something to look into further. If they do have something in place and it just wasn't visible, or our engineer was out there a couple times, and I know that he specifically was looking for that and asking for it, so that's a bit of a concern. And then number 9 is one that goes on to that easy to fix list, and that's adding some egress hardware to the exit door that goes to Genesee Street. And that would just be an exit only. You don't need to let people come in that way, but it is an exit, so people need to be able to get out that way. Any questions on these before I go further?
So far, so good.
Okay. Then as we go down through the report, this rating system just gives an explanation of how the color coding works through the rest of the report. So things that are in green are things that are in good working order. You can look at those as things that you can plan on replacing them in their regular life cycle. So if it's like a roof with a 25-year warranty, the replacement time is going to be whenever that 25 years is up. So we'll do long-term planning for that at that 25 years. Things that are in the yellow category are things that are working okay right now. They might need a little more step up in regular maintenance. They might cause, have issues once in a while, but for the most part, they're doing okay, and no reason to, not an emergency, don't need to be replaced right now, but might need a little extra maintenance. And then the things that are in red, we try not to put anything in red unless it's a safety issue, or unless it's something that is going to significantly damage the building, where it's going to, things like water infiltration, or things that are going to affect the air quality, water quality, things that are really going to damage the building, or or be negative to the people in the building. This is a list of the information that we were provided ahead of time, and the background information on the building. This phase 1 environmental was very helpful. The roof condition assessment, very helpful. I do want to point out that, especially with the sawtooth roof, so there's a recommendation to replace the sawtooth roof with EPDM and with metal panel along the more vertical edges of that. I do want to point out though that the cost of that's listed in that roof assessment is a little bit misleading because that only covers the roof system itself, the EPDM and just the covering of it. From the inside though, our structural engineer was able to identify several areas that are going to also require some structural repair when that roof work is done. So as we get down to the structural section, which is the last one, we just have to add those two numbers together to get the true roof project cost for that sawtooth area. The one, another piece of how what I would like to be able to do in this report, and the final version of it will have some diagrams that will explain our recommendations, because for these bigger pieces, there is the opportunity to break them down into some phases. The sawtooth roof in particular, even though we can't section it off really by tenant area, there is the opportunity to phase it from north to south. So doing certain runs of lengths of the roof at a time, and focusing on the worst ones, the most damaged ones first. So we might be able to break that down to spread the cost out a little bit, maybe over a couple of years rather than doing it all at once. The same would be true for the mechanical replacement, because the systems are set up in a way that they serve different areas of the building. And so a diagram to show which units are serving which areas of the building, and then plan out how replacements would work there. So let me get down to, now each of these other sections are separated into very specific areas of the building and specific systems. And then we just go through and give a really clear indication of its condition, some specific list of what needs to be done at each area, and try to match it with some photographs so that you can tell really clearly what it is that we saw and what we're pointing out that needs to be done. Each of the roof sections are called out and tied back to that key plan so that you can tell what part of the roof we're talking about, what part of the building. These, the sections that are in the report right now, they do have a place right here for cost data. And this is generated by the design team, so by the engineers and the architects. We have an appendix that will be added in the final report that's actually done by our construction estimator. So that will be much more detailed and much more in line with current construction cost. So I would say that these numbers here are more of a rough estimate, just to give kind of a order of magnitude for what kind of a ballpark figure. And then in the appendix, it'll have a much more detailed breakdown of what those costs are. And another thing that's really helpful when she does that is she also provides a calculation of how to figure out what the soft cost for a construction project will be, so that you can add in what the overhead and profit will be, what mobilization costs will be, permit costs, all the other things outside of strictly material and labor, so that you can get a true project cost to make some decisions rather than looking at a strictly square foot price. So that'll be really important as you're making decisions on how to choose which projects to do and which ones to do first. Some of these, when we're figuring out dates and warranties, it's a lot of times when roofs are installed, the documentation isn't there on the warranty. So this is a bit of a guess. And if the documentation doesn't exist, then it's hard to really enforce that warranty anyway. But we can at least assume that that would be the typical lifespan of that system. There is an area of the DPW that has a roof with a lot of skylights in it. And that one also has a lot of ponding and space for, I thought there were some pictures there, ponding and space for a lot of debris to be collected on top of that. And that's, it's a much smaller area, but that would be a roof where we would recommend replacement and then doing some tapered insulation and installing an EPDM roof over that. Then some of the other systems are really good news stories. So electrical communications, life safety things really all are in the green and yellow area. So those are things that don't need to be really touched right now. They can be maintained and added to as needed, but for the most part, those are in good shape. Same with the communications. They do put in the replacement costs again for when, if you plan down the road for a full system upgrade, you can have kind of a budget number for things like that. I'm gonna get down here to our structural section, because that's where there's a good amount of information on things that will tie into the roof and the demolition of that masonry building. So this is the piece, the exterior envelope, this 150,000 is where he is identifying the work that would need to be done on that sawtooth roof as roof replacement happens. So again, it can be broken down into phases. It's not something that has to be structurally completed all at once, but we do want that cost to be calculated in as part of that roof project. So this is also a really good news story here, that the interior, the interior structural columns, the interior structural frame in good shape. So no major issues in there. I think there were some, cracks in the slab and things that might look a little concerning on the inside, but really weren't of great concern to the engineer, just things that may have occurred from normal settling and lack of control joints or expansion joints, but not something that is to be concerned with a major structural failure. So that was very reassuring. But again, this is talks more about the masonry building and the need for that to come down. One way to think about that brick building is that brick is very porous, and in this case, it's really like a wet sponge up against your other two buildings, and it's just doing damage constantly. And the best thing to do is just remove it, and then you can seal the other buildings and protect them. Right now, it's probably a daily battle to keep moisture out of those areas, and it's one that really can't be won. I think that is, yeah. And then we will fill up the rest with the thousands of photos that we took so that we can point out all of the good things that we found. Like I said, the pieces that get added at this point are the grant recommendations and the cost estimates. The interior scope of work will also be included, but it's very ancillary to these exterior items. there wasn't anything major on the interior that was of concern. And they would be things that get renovated as other projects happen or as tenants move in and out. So nothing huge that jumped out there. So I will stop talking. And if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer what I can.
Thank you, Kirsten. That was very useful. We look forward to seeing the rest of the report. Any questions? There you go, Jan.
Yeah, because I haven't really toured that building in years, the masonry section that is being referred to here, is that occupied or is that's just sitting there or what's going
The
on
old
there now?
building, the historical building?
Yeah, what,
Right in the
that was suggested be demolished?
So it has, the stairs are all rotted out. There are city records that have been wet and damaged on the second and third floors and a lot of tires. DPW.
There you go.
Ground floor. So it's
Not really,
it's not used, but it's not empty.
got it.
That's the photo of it.
Oh, there, okay. Oh, yeah,
There's trees growing out of the top of it.
yeah, that's nice, little forest, urban forest.
It's very
One of
sad.
the thoughts that we had was that if it can be removed in a way where the two walls that are engaged with building A and building B can be retained, just the portion of them that are below the roof level of the buildings to remain. It actually might make a nice place for the DPW to relocate their salt storage instead of the building that they use now where the rear wall falls down every year. So I think it could be repurposed to be something that's useful rather than something that is constantly causing issues. So it wouldn't be a total loss. I think we could do something functional with it, but
And it turned into maybe garage space or just a rudimentary roof over it. No
right.
HVAC systems, just lighting.
Exactly. Yep. And so I am, my main work is as a preservation architect. So let me tell you that my entire team is shocked that I am recommending for a building to be torn down. So if it comes from me, I assure you that it's necessary.
Right.
I've been known to save some pretty awful things.
All right. Any other questions? Good. Kirsten, thank you for your time and we're off to a great start. This is all good information and fortunately some of it's good, so we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Okay.
Now, we'll work really hard to help you find money to take care of it too. So
That's also good to hear. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
all right. Thanks very much.
All right.
I have a point real quick. We got a motion from Irene for the financial report, but I did not catch a second for approval of that.
Okay.
Who would like to second the financial report?
Oh, we weren't.
Oh, you were.
We were gonna.
Okay, you were just,
Push it off because it wasn't complete.
okay, sorry, I missed that.
Pointed out that it was.
Thanks.
Incomplete. Lacking some information.
Right.
So
Okay,
just wait for Adam to kind of catch up.
thanks.
Right. Finalize the strategic plan, Gary's Ferguson's work.
Yes.
Good.
So Gary has provided a text-only draft with some design for the executive summary, incorporating the feedback that we've given so far, as well as 200 people on survey, 2 community meetings, multiple meetings with kind of the steering committee and also with us. I would like to get him any last feedback to feed into that soon. I think we've heard from city council that they would like a little more time to look at it and give some feedback. But my goal is that all of the organizations endorse it, which doesn't necessarily, it's not quite the same as adopting, you don't have to agree with 100% of it,
Okay.
but that you are accepting it and, you know, indicating a general appreciation and desire to move forward with those things. So in particular, the IDA should be looking at the assignments for the IDA and making sure that those are things that you all are willing and interested in working on. And what we did at the LDC 2 days ago was actually read through those sections in the executive summary. You know, I would also be interested in your feedback if you see things in other organizations that you think, hey, the IDA should really be doing that, not the bid or not the LDC. That's something that we can take on. It's not very long, the sections on the IDA, not nearly as long as the sections for me, I'll say. So there's 4 short-term recommendations and 10 intermediate to longer term recommendations. We are kind of moving forward in time with this meeting, so I'm not sure I want to read through all of those right now, because I think we have some executive session stuff to talk through. If you have taken a look at that and have any comments, maybe we could do a few minutes talking about it. Or we can plan to discuss that more at our annual meeting that we'll schedule later.
Yeah. Comments? How much time does people have? I mean, the list is short. There's not too many things. I mean, the only objection I had was the sharing the development awards with the LDC since long.
And the reason for that is because
They can get the
IDA
money?
can't give the money.
You didn't do your job, man.
So I have had some discussion with Stephen as well about there are ways that we could solicit a donation for that and just be managing those donated funds would be okay. The LDC does like this idea and would like to participate in it with the leadership of the IDA.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Couple of things. I got some pushback from a neighbor who I really admire what he's done to his building.
Mhm.
He's an architect. At first, he wanted to be on this committee, and then he called me up and said, well, his experience has been when people have done improvements to their property, they get a huge tax increase. So he didn't want to be part of that. No matter what I said to him, that I didn't think that was a possibility. If someone's pulled a permit and they're doing their work, they're going to get a tax increase. And it isn't just because we identify it, you know,
Right.
Unless they secretly did a kitchen oven, like some people might. But anyway, so I happen to have recommended to me, Mr. Rodriguez, Mark's wife is sitting across from me, who I did not realize that at all. And I went to visit him, and neat guy, good experience. I call him young, but I guess he's been doing it for 15, 20 years, so it's not young to me. And then the other fella is Scott Keneal, also a neighbor. And he's a very good contractor, does real good building work. And so just 3 of us so far. And I did speak with Neil. We don't necessarily, some people have sort of pushed back, like my wife has pushed back on identifying money for recipients.
Mhm.
Because it would be a competition. And some may say, I did more on my house than I did, that kind of thing. So I was gonna go visit Lowe's and some other, maybe a big paint store, Sherwin-Williams, and see if they might be interested in giving discounts or coupons or money, monetary stuff. But so that's still up in the air as far as giving out $500 bonds or something.
There is a certain amount of just the recognition and I mean, the whole reason we want to do this is press and community pride. It might not need an award, that is some a gift or
Yeah,
something
the
like
award
that.
would be a plaque.
Yeah.
You know, I've got one on my house that's kind of neat, House of Distinction or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Those are cool. So it's not formulated. At least I have the committee, and if you need to move on that or who they are, that's fine. I did not know he was the LDC either, so we have an LDC member.
Well, would you want to, getting back to the strategic plan, then give us time to look it over and then.
yeah. If
Can
you
we
could
can
look it
just, I mean,
over and
the
email
annual
me,
meeting we're talking about having in a couple of weeks, so
Yeah.
we can
put
have
some
this
time
be
into
part of the
this.
annual meeting.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be segregated or. Why don't we do that? The section is available. It is only like it's about a page of
Yeah.
just summaries of what what should be done.
Yeah, so the overall document's about 100 pages. The executive summary is just 7 and gets a lot of the details. There is a whole chapter that goes into deeper detail about the reasons why and the process for each of the recommended actions. So you can check that out if you want to get more into it. There will also be a bunch of appendices of data and stuff like that, but
When do we expect the full report to be like released publicly?
that is really at this point only being delayed by when we are ready
Yeah,
to say we're
gotcha.
comfortable with that.
Fortunately, the
Pretty quick
American,
after that.
American Can, that project, that's our number one,
Yep.
top of the list,
Yep.
biggest concern right now. One that we're, particularly after hearing the report,
Yeah.
why we should be focusing on that, so. I think it's all good. So why don't we put that on the agenda for, the upcoming meeting? Lowell, you kind of just gave your,
Yeah, I didn't mean to. jump
awards
in.
committee.
Right, yeah, it's the whole thing.
Sorry, this is a flexible. All right, we have also director's report. We've also talked about the Elements Winery expansion. Any other thing that wasn't covered there?
No, I think that's it. I think in the interest of time, we could just jump forward and
Okay, so we'll just look for a report, obviously give them another month to kind of get settled in and then they'll be paying rent, which is good. Stivers Winery closing.
we're continuing to work with the attorneys on that. We have completed the title search and survey and are moving towards closing. I don't have a date yet, but
Okay.
it's ongoing.
All right, sounds good. So the other, before we go into an executive session, all you wanted to talk about?
Oh, just a fun thing. A year and a half ago, I started with 2 others to try and get outdoor pickleball courts. And George Fairfax, who's been a real, he and I teach it too. So, and he plays at a high level. I try and do the same. But we found old tennis courts at the high school that were just sitting there. Terrific 10-foot tall fencing around it, very expensive. Pavement wasn't that bad. We were going to try and raise the money ourselves. It was going to be about 50 grand and none of us could do it. And the town stepped in. I got a call from Mark Venuti and he stepped in and said, we were going to build 2 of them out on our property. It's going to cost us $80,000. If you can get 8 courts, and I said, yeah, you get 10. I laid it out, pencil thing. And then, so we went to 8 courts and I met with Bo, the school district superintendent, and met with Mark. He called me when we were on vacation and he said, let me talk to Bo. So the 2 entities got together and funded this and actually got them all resurfaced. I played there yesterday for the first time. We bought nets. That was our contribution. Just through 3 of us, 4 of us. And so it's going to be open to the public when the school's not in session. It's great. And there's no other outdoor courts here. Everybody goes to Sonnenberg, 8 courts there. Sonnenberg in the morning is packed. Every morning it's not raining, it's packed with people. I hope to have the same thing here. It's a neat sport, great activity. I'll teach you all if you want to play.
That's a good story.
Yeah, yeah, you should do some major event to
Yeah,
kick,
uh,
so people really know about it, and it's
Yeah.
another one of those
Yeah.
moments to celebrate community and, you know.
And people will come here and then they'll go out for lunch and they'll see how nice Geneva is. But we're thinking about how to do this. I called the newspaper yesterday. The name is Tillis.
Spencer, Colors,
Tillis. I asked for him and because I think I saw his caption on the headlines or something and the paper, but he hasn't gotten back to me. So I thought we'd just give him that history of what happened, how long it took. It took forever.
Sure,
It
they'll
took
pick up on it.
forever.
I'm sure he'll pick up on it.
try Mike Cotillo too, he's really the one who kind of doles out assignments.
Okay, I just remembered his name, so
Yeah, he's the photographer,
photographer.
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's good news. I thought.
Great
It's
news.
really neat. And there's parking right there and the kids can use it too.
Sure.
It's so, I've been playing with 10 and 12-year-olds that are really good and they love it. And it's part of their gym class now. So
That's
it's
cool.
Yeah.
That's a good job.
Good.
Very good story, Tom. Okay, it's time of year for our annual meeting, which we kind of, forgot about, I guess, is the best way to say it. So many other things going on. So the suggestion is that we have a meeting, before next November meeting and scheduling just for the annual meeting specifically. It sounds like there's a few agenda items that we might add to it, but in general, it's just to go over what we do every year. There's some goals that we set and we talk about those, and then there's some actual things that we have to sign. You said October 18th,
Yes,
Is
which
that-
is a Friday.
Friday, same time, same station.
I think so. If
All right.
that works with people.
How does that sound for everyone to do that? Normally, this meeting here would have been a double meeting. It's just that we're not prepared to have it today. So
It's okay for me.
you're not gonna be out of town?
No.
Shocking.
I have another board meeting that morning until 9:30. But then I'm free the entire rest of the day.
What do folks think? We could move it to 9:30? We could do the meeting without Catherine and still make quorum. Does 9:30 work?
Yeah, that's right. Is that good for you?
Yeah, as long as I'm out of here by 11, I'm good.
Perfect.
What time?
11.
11, yeah. It's fine for me. I can.
Okay.
9:30, the 18th.
All right.
Any accommodation.
9:30 on the 18th. Sold. All right. Okay, now, I need a motion to go into executive session, David, or I can read it, I guess. A motion to enter the executive session to discuss proposed pending or current litigation and proposed acquisition, sale or lease or real property of the proposed acquisition of securities or sale of exchange of securities held by IDA. Second, thank you, RJ. All right, you ready to go? Are we there now?
Nope.
Okay.
Do you need a vote on that?
Yeah,
What's that?
we need a vote.
Yes, we do. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right.